I now call this meeting of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Student Senate to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, November 16th, 2023, with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that the Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is home to 4 federally recognized Native nations: the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at K-State. With that, Speaker Pro Tem Kappelman will take it away with our first roll call.
All right. Atchison. Bellamy. Biggs. Blood. Here. Broughton. Here. Bruckner. Here. Koch. Here. Compton. Here. Cuesta. Here. Cup. Here. Dennis. Here. Dunce. Fogel. Glasscock. Griffith. Here. Haynes. Here. Hartzell. Here. Heatherman. Hulse. Here. Jacobson. Kirchen.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Kermer.
Here.
Kinsey.
Here.
Lilly. Lynn.
Here.
Melcher.
Here.
Moore. O'Malley.
Here.
Oury.
Here.
Porter. Rivard. Rodriguez Melendez. Salmon.
Here.
Streetman.
Here.
Strunk.
Here.
West. Winger.
Here.
Wolf. And Zacko. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brady. We'll now move into our first open period. First up, we have the Care Office. Chair Blood.
Request for information. How many senators are current?
26.
With proxies?
Without proxies.
Okay.
Okay, hello. My name is Ruby. I'm a current practicum student working at the Care Office, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about our services and what we do. Okay, next. Okay, so this is our mission, but I'm not going to read that. Next. Okay. So what the Care Office is, when you walk away from this presentation, the main things to remember are that the Care Office provides services to anybody affiliated with K-State. So students, staff, faculty, administrators, anybody who works in maintenance, anybody affiliated in any way with K-State who have experienced sexual violence, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and sexual harassment. Also, I really should have given a bit of a disclaimer that we're going to lightly discuss some of these topics. So if at any point you need to step out of the room, please take care of yourself. But CARE is a resource for anybody affiliated with K-State who has directly or indirectly experienced any of these forms of interpersonal violence. And main things to remember, so free, don't have to pay any money. Voluntary only if you want to access these resources. So you can come in, decide it's not for you, and never come back. And confidential, so we are one of very few confidential resources on campus. Our staff will not share personal information to anyone without your consent unless it has to do with harming yourself or harming others. But that includes your parents, police, the school, anything like that. Next. Okay, so this is our staff. If you were to come into the care office, you would see the lovely Kathy Burton's face. So she is the survivor intake specialist. She's the person that works the front desk who set up me coming to this lovely meeting. She runs the email and answers the phones. Steph is the director. The advocates, so the people that students meet with, are Lori and Elizabeth, and then I'm the practicum student, and Michael is graduating in December. Woo! Okay, next. So, we are not investigators. Our job is not to determine what happened, anything like that. Our job is really just to believe survivors and to support them. So, there's some statistics about the reality of how many sexual assault reports are found to be false, and it's much lower than most people think. But our stance is that we believe in survivors and understanding their experiences and the responsibility that the university has to respond to survivors' needs and our duty to assist them in seeking support and justice through whatever process they choose. And so we really leave it up always to survivors and what they want to do. We're never going to tell someone what to do. We're just here for them in whatever capacity they need. Next. Okay, so these are what we actually do. Here are our services. So we do emotional support. I'm just going to touch on a few of the main ones since you can read all of these. But we do legal assistance, different types of education, such as presentations like this. We do crisis intervention. We can help facilitate meetings with other offices and different forms of academic support. We can help with filling out protection orders and just navigating the legal system in general. We can help connect people to mental health assistance. We also have something called the Healing Fund. Since we're fully grant funded, we have a fund that we use. So if someone comes into our office, it actually will help pay for some of their therapy and help get them into therapy if that's not something that their insurance covers. Yeah, next. Okay, so just like this presentation, which is a very shortened version, just about what the care office does, we also do a bunch of other ones, so I'll let you take a look at those. But basically, if you're part of any club and you want any sort of education on what the care office does, please reach out to our email or walk into the office or call us, and we would love to speak to any group with one of these presentations. Next. Okay, so I used the term interpersonal violence earlier. What is that? It's the big umbrella form for any type of broad spectrum of violent acts between people. So domestic violence, child abuse, sexual violence, stalking, intimate partner violence. And the care office covers all of these except for child abuse. And so interpersonal violence may be physical, emotional, or sexual in nature. This is the most broad presentation on it. So if you want more, I would love to answer questions, but I'll keep it moving. Next. So specifically, a main focus is sexual violence, and what that is a form of interpersonal violence that occurs when a sexual act is imposed on a person through deception, force, intimidation, or coercion. And main thing is that consent is not given. Sexual violence occurs on a very broad spectrum, so you can see like sexual harassment, stuff that may occur day to day, all the way to like the more severe areas of it, of sex trafficking and exploitation. And what statistics find is that what people may deem in their minds as the less severe, even though all of it is very serious, happens much more frequently than what people would determine as like the most severe occurrences of it. But something that counts as sexual violence is like catcalling, anything like that, that can be very traumatizing for someone. And so that is something that someone could come in and talk about if they wanted to. You could seek our services for anything. We're not going to turn anyone away. Okay, next. So why does it happen? All I'm going to talk about for this slide is that any form of sexual violence, no matter what Colleen Hoover says, it is not love. It is all about power. So it's abusive relationships and instances of sexual violence, power, and control is expressed through intimidation, force, coercion, and manipulation. And it's all about that power, and these are different ways that people can show that. Next. Okay, so let's look at this in relation to K-State's specific campus, getting specific. Next. skip, sorry. Ignore this. Okay, so we are currently in the red zone. All college campuses experience this, but there's a time of year where it is much more likely for individuals to experience sexual assault. And that is because, and it's also, there's a specific age range, but it's particularly risky for first-year students, and that's because of these reasons. They're away from home for the first time, away from their support. They're trying new things, and even though this may make people more vulnerable, choosing to do these things should be safe. People should be able to explore, find friends, go out and have fun without the fear of experiencing sexual violence. And so, sadly, this is a time of year and a statistic when the CARE office is very busy. But the main point of this slide is to just be aware of it and try and mitigate the risk in certain ways. If you see something going on, you should step in and intervene in a safe way. Okay, next. So, sexual assault on campuses, some more specific statistics. So, gonna frame this with anyone. No matter who you are, you can experience sexual assault and interpersonal violence, but certain groups of people are more at risk for victimization. And so 1 in 4 women, if you are LGBTQ, you're 4 times more likely. Students with disabilities are 2 times more likely. There are some statistics up here, but once again, emphasizing that it's about power. So people who have been historically excluded from spaces are often at a higher risk for victimization, and you can just see that in the statistics. But that can sometimes create a stigma for those that are less likely seen to be sexually assaulted, and so it's important to never discount other people's experiences, and it should be easy for everyone to come forward and share theirs. So 1 in 10 men will experience physical abuse, sexual assault, or stalking by a partner in their lifetime. And so when we look at these statistics, I'm going to assume that everybody in here knows more than 4 women or more than 10 men. And so thinking that this impacts people that you know. Next. Okay, stalking on college campuses. This is actually one of the most likely things that happens. And so 92% of college stalking victims have told their loved ones about their stalking experiences. But with technology, sometimes people don't even realize that what they're saying is stalking. Also, feel free to just cut me off when I reach time. Am I at time? Okay, wait, skip. If you want to know more about stalking, just hit me up. Okay, this is important. Okay, so this is K-State statistics. At K-State, this is what is happening. So basically, 1 in 4 students have reported experiencing sexual assault since coming to K-State. That's pretty wild. 1 in 4. Look at everybody in the room just since coming to K-State, not in their lifetime, just since being a student here. Okay, of students reported sexual harassment, so more than half of students reported sexual harassment by another student.
The speaker's time has expired.
Extend it, please.
Senator Koch.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go fast. 30% of students reported at least 1 incident of stalking since coming to K-State. 30% of students. 30%, that's pretty wild. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna let you soak in these statistics for a large portion of my time. Okay, next. Next, trauma comes from this and it impacts all of your life. Next. Okay, these are more impacts of trauma. And guess what? Everybody in here has most likely experienced trauma. And it's hard. We all went through a pandemic together. And if you've experienced trauma, you know how hard that is. And the CARE office is here to help alleviate some of that trauma. Next. Okay, it impacts your academics. Next. How can you help? That's what you guys are all interested in, right? Wait, can you go back? I'm so sorry. Yep, you skipped this one on purpose. Just kidding. I'm so sorry. Okay, providing support. So here's some really easy things you can do. When someone shares something with you like this, it can be hard to know what to say, what to do, and that is totally normal. A good place to start is really just listening to them. Here are some easy phrases you can say. How can I help? I'm here for you. This wasn't your fault. I'm here to listen. You have every right to feel this way. I believe you goes a really long way. I know resources if you're ready, but things that aren't helpful are telling people, or okay, that'll be the next slide. But basically, validating their feelings, maintaining their trust, being a safe person. You don't need to know the right things to say. Listening goes a long way. Next. Okay, unsupportive actions, telling them what to do. They just had something happen to them that stripped away all of their choice. So telling them what to do, putting them in a spot that isn't what they want to do, not helpful. The only exception to this is when there's imminent danger posed to the survivor or anybody else. Next. Okay, it's
The
heavy.
speaker's time has expired.
Ooh, okay, questions?
Are there any questions for the speaker?
Can you just go to the last slide?
Caucus Leader Navarro.
Thank you. Okay. Basically, if you want to know more, I'm so happy to talk. You can follow the DASA thing. Here is KSU Care, but we are one of few confidential resources on campus. So I just want to say we can help connect to other resources, but if you're going to talk to your RA, an advisor, anything like that, they are great people to share with. They also know the resources, but they're not confidential. And so just knowing that we can also help connect you, but we are confidential. Okay, good question.
Chair Broughton.
Yeah, you mentioned that all people affiliated with K-State, does that include spouses of people affiliated, like students or administration or faculty or staff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say we would not turn them away if they came into the office and wanted access to resources. I don't know about specifically like using the healing fund like I talked about to like pay for therapy, but we would definitely answer the phone, have them come in, meet with them, and connect them to resources in the community. Yeah, good question. Yes.
Caucus Leader Navarro.
So our funding has been cut, but it's basically like a certain amount of money towards wherever they want to get therapy. So it used to be any therapy anywhere, but now it's kind of like last year it was $500. Now it's looking more like $350 toward $350 towards whatever therapy they would like. So Family Center, Lafine, anywhere, yeah.
Caucus Leader Salmon.
We do not. The care office right now is just for K-State, but for like online students, if they are a K-State student, they do like Zoom sessions, and the Healing Fund has been allocated to like students who are online.
Awesome. Are there any further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next up for first open period, we have Greg Willems.
Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. So I'm Greg Willems. I'm the president and CEO of the K-State Foundation. And so what's the time? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. All right. I'll keep my eye on that, wherever the clock is. So maybe a little bit about what we do. Is anybody in the audience, are you familiar with the K-State Foundation and our mission? All right. Wow. God, that's more than usual. So fantastic. So I've been here nearly 9 years. It'll be 9 years in February as the CEO. I am not a K-State graduate. I graduated from Texas A&M University, but I bleed purple now. I'm part of the Manhattan community and love this place. So a little bit about the foundation and our mission. So we have three main mission functions. Fundraising, probably what we're most known for. We're raising about an average of $230 million a year, the last 2-year average. The other mission function we perform is investment management of the university's endowment, nearly $1 billion in the markets that we manage. And then the third kind of rapidly growing dimension of our service is real estate and building out the Edge District on the north edge of campus. So we do all that through about 155 staff members. of varying skills and backgrounds that go out and solicit gifts, manage and administer gifts, execute real estate projects, et cetera. So some of the more iconic things that students might represent us or acknowledge us for, obviously scholarships. We provide a little over $28 million a year to Kansas State, year in and year out for scholarships recurring. Probably some more iconic projects recently, if you've gone down Denison Avenue and seen Cat's Cupboard. So that new facility was a $3 million gift we secured, built out. We work with Shelley Williams and her talented team on everything they need to execute that mission, food resources, staffing, et cetera. Mental health services are one of our more recent campaigns on All In Day, providing a little over $1 million for mental health services. Financial Futures, Open Alternative Textbook Initiative, the one that's probably my favorite, the Classroom Renovation Initiative. So we started that a couple of years ago, raising $7 million to renovate completely 67 of the most utilized classrooms around campus. So we, I don't know what else I could say. We are a separate 501c3 governed by a board, but we operate and act like the university owns us completely in everything that we do. It's important that we stay really aligned on that mission. So with that, I'll stop. I think I've given you enough to help you understand what we do, why we do it. I just entertain any questions or curiosities that you have.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the speaker? Chair Broughton.
Yes. So it's a combination of outside fund managers. So we do have an inside staff member who's our Chief Investment Officer, Paul Chai. We also have a smaller complement of staff, a director of investments, a couple of student analysts, and then one other administrative professional that does the internal management, monitoring performance, selecting managers. So they work to go out and select individual managers in different asset classes. So largely it's invested and managed by professionals outside, but we have an internal team that coordinates that. Yes.
Coordinator Navarro.
Oh, I'm sorry. You bet.
What kind of dictates the projects that you guys put money into?
Yeah.
Is it more of the university, or is it more of what K-State Foundation and their alumni want to do?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. You know, who sets priorities is the way I would frame this. And so absolutely first and foremost, the university. So the foundation rarely ever gets the occasion where we're going to dictate what the university wants, needs, or is important to do. So it starts with the university president, and the deans are typically that echelon of leadership that we're working with most closely. Certainly Thomas Lane, VP of Student Life, and his entire team, a big part of that. So it's going to be academic leaders and units that dictate that. I would say when I really think about how this comes down, donors have a lot of vote in this. I'm fond of saying to our fundraisers, in the end, they have 51% of the vote because it's their money. So it's our job to figure out how do we inspire and guide them to things they care about and are meaningful and impact so that we earn those monies where we want them to go. So I'd say it's administration, and then donors certainly have influence over that. We will walk away from gifts. There are times where a donor wants to do something that's just not aligned with what the university wants to do, or we feel it's not going to be helpful, it's going to be a burden or a liability. And so there are occasions we have to say no.
Follow-up?
Granted.
And when you're talking about like doing projects or doing scholarships, is that purely in the purview of the alumni, or does the K-State Foundation kind of give them a little bit of guidance on like where that money should go?
Yeah, I think, you know, this is where the delicate balance in the art of what we do is. I think you're trying to balance the project that might be a really high priority need of the institution and what working with that donor might get them to a more optimal level, a higher level gift. And so then we're typically going to go back to the academic leadership, talk about the opportunity. We could probably inspire a gift of $100K to this building, or maybe $1 million for scholarships. It's usually not a hard decision for them, but that's part of the negotiation and the partnership with the university that we execute.
Chair Long.
Can you talk about some of the reasonings and goals for the foundation's expansion to real estate development?
Sure. Couple of things. So this, again, goes back to previous administrations. And so I've been here, and Dr. Rich Linton is the third president at Kansas State under my term of service here. So started with Kirk Schultz and then with Richard Myers and now President Linton. Long ago, even prior to my arrival here, there was a vision for attracting businesses and entities that could coexist around the periphery of K-State and enhance the mission, create impact opportunity for students and faculty. And so we started very humbly in the research district over on Manhattan Avenue, attracting the Kansas Department of Agriculture and a few other businesses. And then on Kimball Avenue, we've been acquiring property and building space that's bringing companies like Burns and McDonnell and Garmin and in internships for our students, capital project, and what I'd call corporate research project opportunities for faculty. And it demonstrates to the state and the citizens of Kansas that Kansas State University is an economic driver. So it really feeds into the narrative.
Time for questionings has expired.
Chair Broughton.
Move to extend the time for questioning by 4 minutes.
Second.
You have 4 more minutes for questioning.
Okay, I'll be quick.
Leader Glanville.
So, as I understand, the foundation is here to help students. How can students get involved with the foundation, help the foundation secure funds, and/or work for the foundation?
Sure. So a couple of things. So we have a number of employment opportunities that pay quite well. So at any given time, we have 30 to 40 staff. Anybody work for the foundation here? Okay, thank you. There's my advocate right there. At any given time, we probably have 30 to 40 students who are working in various tasks. Every aspect of our operation doing really high value, high quality work. The investment analysts, pick managers, do due diligence, do reports, marketing, communications, IT, everywhere. So that's one direct way. The KSU Student Foundation is another very iconic student leadership group that runs their annual campaign, creating student opportunity awards to support students. Those would be the two most direct ways. Certainly as we engage in priority projects and fundraising with donors, we harness the voice of students all the time in videos and appeals and things to help us be successful in that mission. You bet.
Senator O'Malley.
In what ways is the foundation involved with the new strategic plan, or like how does that change what you guys do?
Yeah, I think the strategic plan for the university sets a vision, direction, and a set of aspirational outcomes that really are the university's desire. Our job is to figure out how do we complement, harness donors' interests towards some of those priorities and initiatives, help the university figure out what kind of projects they would do that would deliver those outcomes and get them funded by donors. So if you read into the plan, there's a lot around some of the digital and advanced agriculture. There's centers around water and things that are alluded to. As they've launched and announced some of those things, we're out talking to donors about providing funds to support those initiatives. A lot of new faculty support, new faculty positions they want to hire. And certainly, if you look at the College of Ag, new facilities, that's a complete overhaul of the College of Agriculture facilities for students, faculty, and our partnership with companies.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
Thank you again for joining us tonight. My question's more in the frame of, or in the topic of estate planning. So can you walk us through a little bit more about what that looks like on the front end side of someone wanting to make a gift upon their past estate, and then how that works with just evaluating their total assets that they were prepared to give,
Sure.
like at the moment, then when they are deceased?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is that, there's an entire spectrum of opportunity for people to participate financially. An outright cash gift, doing a pledge gift over time, estate giving is a big part of the production we do. So helping people think about their estate plan and how they want their afterlife impact to continue is a big part of that. We have a staff of professionals that work with people to document simple wills, to IRA beneficiary designations, to very complex trust management structures. So it is a big part of our production. I would highlight probably one thing, the numbers I alluded to in the very beginning, the roughly $230 million average over the last 2 years. That's a combination of outright cash, 5-year pledge gifts, and some planned gifts. So you might have $50 to $60 million worth of commitments, people making a promise for the future. But it is a big part of how we partner with K-State donors to, if they're not as capable to offer discretionary cash today, doing it through their estate doesn't affect their lifetime and allows them to do something very significant here when they pass.
Thank you.
Are there further questions for the speaker? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, are there any further first open period speakers? Seeing none, we'll move into approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed on Tuesday along with the agenda and legislation tracking information. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Senator Glasscock.
I move to approve the minutes. Unanimously.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the minutes unanimously. The minutes will stand approved. Moving on to announcements. First, we are still looking for people to serve on the Elections Committee. We are up from 1 application last week to 4 applications, but we still need to fill this committee. So if you know anyone that might be interested, or if you are a senior who is graduating, this might be a good fit for you. Second, Thursday, December 7th at 7 p.m., that is Dead Week during normal Senate time. We will be hosting a work session in Wildcat Chamber. There will be snacks and friends. Come work on SGA projects or just work on homework, but please come out and join us. 3, proxies. If you're going to be absent from Student Senate meeting, please fill out the link, even if you aren't sure if your absence will be excused. 4, if you'll be physically absent from Student Senate but would still like to attend via Zoom, please fill out the Student Senator Zoom request form. The request will be reviewed based on the Student Senate attendance policy. 5, if you want to give props to someone in Student Senate, fill out the Senate shoutout form, and Speaker Pro Tem Kappelman will read them at the end of our meeting. 6, the SGA Member of the Week is Brandon Kermer. Brandon Kermer has been working extremely hard with members of his college and getting legislation out in Senate. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, Brandon. You will see on the upcoming events calendar, we do not have committee meetings because it is Thanksgiving break. The quote of the week is, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." Maya Angelou. We will now move on to commendations for the evening. First up, we have Resolution 23-2454. Is there a motion to consider the resolution? Senator Glasscock.
I move to consider resolution 54.
Second.
I object to the consideration of the question.
It has been moved and seconded. Is that a debatable motion?
It's not.
It has been moved, seconded, and objected to consider the resolution. That means having it read up and voted on. All those in favor of considering the resolution, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised to. Yes.
Do you know why this is being objected to?
This is being objected to because it was put on the agenda after agenda had been sent through the Senate Operations Committee. This was the case because as Speaker of the Student Senate, I have the ability to put legislation on the agenda at any point before the meeting as long as I send it out, which I did.
Thanks.
Chair Broughton.
Question of privilege, I think.
Yes.
Has this happened in any previous situations? Such as you have sent, you put legislation on the agenda before it has been sent to office, or after it has been sent to office?
I don't know that it has,
Okay.
but I have not been asked. Chair Long.
Another question of privilege. Is there a particular reason, is there some time-sensitive era to the nature of this?
They put it on 2 weeks ago and then took it off because they wanted it read this week instead and forgot to put it back on. So no. Are there further questions of privilege? All those in favor of considering Resolution 54, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. This resolution will be considered. Will the author please come forward?
Okay. Resolution 23-24-54, Commendation to Cats Cupboard. Authors Adelaide Easter. Sponsors Caleb Stout, Jess Binkley, and Jake Brown. Whereas, since opening its doors in 2017, Cats Cupboard has provided critical food security resources to the students, faculty, and staff of Kansas State University. Whereas, at Kansas State University, 40% of students have reported themselves to be food insecure. Whereas Cats Cupboard has now expanded their facilities from 800 to 8,000 square feet since moving to 1021 Denison Avenue, significantly growing their ability to provide for the university community. Whereas Cats Cupboard provides Kansas State University students with access to nutritious and culturally appropriate food, and Cats Cupboard has been a vital component supporting student-driven initiatives that promote health, success, well-being, and a food-secure future. And whereas the countless volunteers and donations from the community have made Cats Cupboard one of the premier food pantries in the nation. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association recognizes and applauds the hard work and effort of Cats Cupboard staff, ambassadors, volunteers, and donors in the community. Section 2, upon passage of the Student Senate and the signature of the student body president, a copy of this legislation will be sent to Director of Cats Cupboard Shelley Williams, Cats Cupboard Program Coordinator Callie Keller, Cats Cupboard Back of House Operations Specialist Elizabeth Irvine, Student Co-Chair of Cats Cupboard Advisory Board Jessica Ramirez, Community Co-Chair of Cats Cupboard Advisory Board Carol Shanklin, Executive Director of Student Health and Wellbeing Services Lafine Health Center Wendy Nicholson, Morrison Family Associate Vice President of Student Wellbeing Kathleen Hatch, Community Advisory Board members Sarah Howe, Mary Ice, Tammy Loudon, Larry Modere, and Debbie Morrison. Student representatives Lindsay Asher, Heaven Cedino, Crystal Cooper, Liz Daniels, Adelaide Easter, Emily Gibson, Mary Kate Melcher, and Leah Roan. Staff faculty representatives Eric Bauer, Tamara Bauer, Diana Shawless, Mary Kay Seifers, Kimberly Williams, and Felicia Williams. Board member emeritus and founder Sarah Barnett, and donors David and Tracy Lockton.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Question of privilege. So there are a number of people on here that used to work at K-State that have titles. So is it important to add in like the emeritus status of a retired faculty member in legislation like this?
I'll refer that question of privilege to the ops chair. Was the ops chair listening to the question?
I heard the question. Do you have their titles roughly?
I can get them, but for example, Larry Mader, he's the Associate Vice President for Student Life Emeritus. Like that's what he did. Carol Shanklin, she's the, I think, Emeritus VP of Graduate Studies. I mean, that's just what her title was when she was here. So I would suggest if we could add it, that'd be great, but it's a friendly amendment.
We can do that before it's certified.
We can get that out before it's certified. If you will send that information to Brady. Thank you. Caucus Leader Kermer.
Is there a reason Thomas Lane and Richard Lincoln left off of this?
So they're not actually included in the Cats Cupboard Advisory Board anymore, and I just included those members. Kathleen Hatch serves as a representative for Thomas Lane now.
Chair Broughton.
Yeah, where did that 40% statistic come from?
That came from a study that they did in, I think, 2022. So if you go onto Cats Cupboard website, that is all on there and in the Cats Cupboard Advisory Board bylaws that they have sent out.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author? Senator Koch.
On line 16, should there be a semicolon after community instead of a period? And then line 40 after Debbie Morrison, shouldn't it be a comma instead of a semicolon?
What was the second one?
Line 40 after Debbie Morrison.
Line 40? Got it, thank you.
Are there further questions or corrections? Senator Lilly.
On line 43 at the very end, should that be a comma instead of a semicolon?
I think it is supposed to be there because it's separating.
Chair Blood.
Is proper use of semicolons allows for lists of list separation. And so on 40 and 42 and 43, those were added intentionally, given the colons for the titles that were added. differentiate the separate sets of teachers.
Okay, are there further questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Chair Long.
I move to approve Resolution 54 unanimously.
It has been moved and seconded. That resolution, will stand approved. Okay, seeing as we have exhausted commendations, we will move into approval of appointments. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 232448? Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Resolution 48.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
Alrighty, Resolution 232448, approval of appointments to the executive branch. Authors Jessica Binkley, Caleb Stout, and Jake Brown. Sponsors Senate Operations Committee. Whereas it is necessary to approve the members of the Student Body President's Cabinet, whereas the positions of Campus Access Director and Health and Wellbeing Director are currently vacant, whereas these positions were sufficiently advertised via their appropriate channels, whereas applications were made available to all students who showed interest in the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, whereas there were 3 applicants for the position of Campus Access Director and 3 applicants for the position of Health and Wellbeing Director, whereas the following individuals have been selected to serve on the basis of their leadership ability, experience, and dedication to serving the Kansas State University student body throughout the rest of the term, and whereas this appointment is subject to approval by Student Senate, be it resolved that the following individuals be approved to serve on the Student Body President's Cabinet for the 2023-2024 Kansas State University Student Governing Association KSUSGA term. Campus Access Director Jerry Acombe, and Health and Wellbeing Director Mia Thompson.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve unanimously? Chair Lynn.
I move to approve unanimously.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. This resolution will stand approved. If they want to come down and get sworn in. Pull it out. Oh, yeah, got it.
You just raise your right hand and then say, I will at the end. Okay. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Campus Access Director and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association.
I will.
Awesome. If you want to introduce yourself with name, major, hometown, favorite smile.
So my name is Jerry Acom. I'm a graduate student in data analytics.
Hometown, favorite smile.
I'm originally from Cameroon. Presently, I'm in Folgali. I'm in the Army doing ROTC. And
favorite smell?
I think that one is difficult for me. I don't know.
Okay, we will now move on to Resolution 232449. Chair Long.
I move to consider Resolution 49. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 232449, approval of new student senator. Authors Brian Blood, sponsors Senate Operations Committee. Whereas currently there's a vacancy for the position of student senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, Whereas the list of eligible and willing candidates in the 2023 SGA general election in the College of Arts and Sciences has been exhausted, and whereas the College of Arts and Sciences College Caucus, in their capacity to fill the vacancy, has nominated Alexa G. Hesseltine to fill the vacancy, be it resolved that Section 1, the following individual be approved as a student senator for the College of Arts and Sciences, Alexa G. Hesseltine.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author?
Yeah, I've got 3. Depluralize, on line 18, Brady. Depluralize individuals. Add an A before student senators. Depluralize senators.
Are there any further questions or corrections for the author? Probably he got them himself. Is there a motion to?
I move to approve of Resolution 4090 unanimously.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, the resolution will stand approved. Alexa, if you want to come up and get sworn in. Okay, if you will raise your right hand and say "I will" at the end. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of student senator and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association. Awesome. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, name, major, hometown, favorite smell.
Okay, hi guys. Most of you already know me, but my name's Alexa Hesseltine. I'm from Wichita. I'm majoring in medical microbiology with a gender, women's sexuality studies minor and a global health certificate. And I'm a junior. I don't know if I already said that. But I think my favorite smell is kind of controversial, but is the business building. I think it smells really good. So there you go.
Okay, seeing as we have exhausted approval of appointments, we will move into committee reports. Are there any committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Chair Lynn.
Okay, so the DEIB committee has been working for several weeks on our accessibility review. We completed the actual review of buildings back in October, and we're kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do with that information once we actually finished it. So this is the cumulative result of that review and some of the findings that we gained from that. What we're going to be doing with this report is turning it into a couple of pieces of legislation that are going to be introduced during our next Senate meeting, but also talking to university facilities and other administration to try to see what sort of actions we can take on this. I just wanted to run you all through some of the highlights before this actually gets introduced as legislation next week, because the legislation is going to reference this report. So Carson, if you can go down to page 7. Okay, so starting off with some of the results of the review, on the accessibility side of things, we looked at whether or not there was clear labeling for accessible entrances. Were there automatic push-button doors on the main entrances of the buildings? How many entrances have wheelchair access? For all of those statistics, about 35% of the buildings that we reviewed did not have clear labeling for accessible entrances. 46% were reported to not have push-button automatic doors at the main entrances, and 67% of those buildings were reported to have less than one wheelchair accessible entrance, 3 of them having 0 wheelchair accessible entrances. Going down to page 8, entering the main doors requiring stairs. Are there any obstructions? Several potholes and uneven sidewalks that can make accessibility incredibly difficult were found outside of some of these buildings. Does the building have a working elevator? 5 of the buildings, so 20% of the buildings that had more than 1 floor were reported to not have a working elevator. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I thought that those were some of the really shocking highlights that came out of this, and really opened my eyes as to how many accessibility problems we might be finding on a wider scale here on campus. Carson, if you can go down to page 10. Okay, so page 10 starts out with a review of gender inclusive restroom accessibility. So does a building have either a gender neutral restroom or a single stall restroom that a student who maybe doesn't identify with male or female could be comfortable using? 57% of the buildings that we reviewed did not have a gender neutral or a single stall restroom available to students. And then beyond that, the labeling to help people find these gender neutral restrooms was also pretty lacking in the buildings that we reviewed. So you can go down to section 7 on page 13. So, based on all of those findings, we wrote up several priorities and some justification for those priorities. But what's really important is this list down here at the bottom, saying that these are the things that we urge KSU to prioritize. This is what's actually going to be in the legislation that you're going to see in a couple of weeks. So this included, first of all, just creating clear signage to help students find where accessible entrances are, clear signage to figure out where accessible bathrooms are, repairing potholes or uneven sidewalks on campus pathways, ensuring that existing elevators are fully functioning and prioritizing maintenance if that is necessary. And then some of the bigger asks in this section are going to be starting to replace round doorknobs in campus buildings with lever doorknobs, and then ensuring that main entrances to buildings have automatic push button doors. So those are kind of the things that we are prioritizing and would like to ask of the university. Mainly, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Go to the next page. And then on the gender inclusive restroom side of things, there is a shorter list of priorities on this side. Clear signage is another thing that we really want to prioritize to help people find those gender neutral restrooms. And then designating at least one restroom in every building on campus to be a gender neutral space. So that's what you're going to see in the form of legislation. If anyone wants to take a closer look at this report, I can definitely send it out to anyone who's interested.
Are there any questions? Chair Broughton.
Are any of the findings that this report found illegal for the university to not have?
Not that I'm aware of. Most of the accessibility issues that we have are in buildings that are old enough that they were grandfathered into the ADA compliance.
I understand. Thank you.
Coordinator Hoffman.
Yeah, personally, I would like this report, and would it be possible to either just get it sent out to Kate so that we could all have it, or get it published somewhere, or like so that way we know that SGA did this?
Yes. So I am planning on sending it out with the legislation. If you want it before the legislation, I can certainly do that too.
Coordinator Navarro.
Yeah, I wanted to know, what would a legislation for this look like? And kind of on top of that, are there already things being done from a facility standpoint to address these issues?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with Casey Lauer a little bit earlier this week. He assured me that when the new campus master plan is getting formed, one of the big priorities that they're having in that campus master plan is some ADA and accessibility stuff. Where he said that this is going to be really helpful is helping to identify what students are going to prioritize the most, and we also have a little bit more of a boots on the ground, like firsthand experience than other people. So campus master plan is definitely going to include some of this stuff, and I'm certainly going to push for them to make it a strong priority when that does happen.
Are there further questions for Chair Lynn? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any further committee chairs that would like to give a report tonight? Seeing none, we'll move into directors' reports. Are there any directors that would like to give a report tonight? Chief of Staff Brown.
This will be quick. I just wanted to let you guys know because it's kind of cool, and we were representing SGA. So Tuesday, the BSU hosted a late night hoops tournament, basketball tournament. SGA put in a team. I was on that team. The guy back there, Jack O'Malley, was also on that team. The director of Multicultural Affairs, Ibrahim, was also on that team, and 2 students at large that joined us. We won that whole championship, guys. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. Props to Jack. He got a ton of rebounds. Super helpful. So, yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Chief of Staff Brown?
Now's the time. Yeah.
Do you not shoot very well? Is that why you had the rebound?
I didn't shoot the best, but we did all right. We did all right. Won the championship. Second.
Any more?
Oh, Senator O'Malley.
You gonna come back next year, run it back?
Oh, we're going back to back, baby. We're coming back.
Seeing no further questions, thank you. Are there further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Coordinator Hoffman.
Brief little update. We had our last meeting for Phase 2 Mentors today, so it was with a bitter end. We gave out awards. Some notables included the Marcus Kidd Award, the Jess Binkley Award, the Hattie Polson Award. Those were some of the top tiers. But the Phase 2 class is doing good. We have some of them in the crowd, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do. In the future, we should have some legislation coming out in the coming weeks or next semester. So keep an eye out for that one.
Do you stand for questions?
Stand for questions. Yeah.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
How does one get the Marcus Kidd Award?
A big part of it is a commitment to stay in SGA. It was.
Are there further questions for Chief of Staff Brown?
What was the criteria for the Jess Binkley?
Being great.
Are
We
there
had to come up with 21 of these guys.
Are there further questions for Coordinator Hoffman? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any further directors that would like to give a report tonight? Seeing none, we will move into approval of the allocations. No, because it's approval. First up, we have Bill 38, allocation to on-the-spot improv. They requested $1,000 and were recommended $1,000. Bill 39, allocation to the American Nuclear Society. They requested $250 and were recommended $130. The first allocation to the Solar Club, Bill 40, they requested $150 and were recommended $80. And the second allocation to Solar Club, Bill 41, they requested $784 and were recommended $200. Is there a motion to approve the allocations? Senator Griffith.
I move to approve the allocations.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there any objections? The allocations will stand approved. Now we'll move into final action. First up, we have Resolution 232444. Will the author please come forward? Or designee thereof.
I believe there were a couple of changes in committee. What they were, I don't remember off the top of my head. One of the numbers that was changed was, I believe in line 45, which I don't think it's reflected on the agenda, but the 6,900 number was changed. To what amount? I don't remember. But anyway. So the important thing on this bill is the numbers that you see at the bottom of your page are a reflection of a semester's worth of work. A semester's work done by the Tuition Enhancements Committee, hearing presentations, asking different questions, staying till oftentimes 9:30 on a Monday morning. And I think that the finished product that we have in front of you today reflects those numbers. I think that when the committee made their decision process a couple weeks ago, that they were very careful and very deliberate about different things and different entities that they wanted to fund. And I think they did that by adhering to our guidelines and making a good funding recommendation. So I would encourage you to pass this resolution and recommendation as it is with no changes. So thank you.
Okay, so those were the corrections and your first rights to debate?
Yeah.
Okay, seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Chair Blood.
I have an amendment.
Okay. State that amendment. Will you pull that up? Interim parliamentarian.
Oh.
Will you pull that up? It's in your email.
Yeah.
It's line 66, which don't appear to be showing up on the side there.
Number
22, yes. And that's basically striking the $1,000 amount, changing it to zero, and then the total changes to reduce it by $2,000.
Okay, so the amendment has now been stated. This would cut funding for the $1,000 for physics diversity scholarships and physics graduate family support, 22 and 23. Is there a motion to consider the amendment?
We just need a second.
Is there a second to considering?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. You have first rights to debate.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, So my main motivation here with this amendment is that EOF and just really anything I think that SGA funds in general, when we're giving money to a department, should really be focused on the entire student body and benefit that can bring to the entire student body or large portions of the student body. These two allocations, while small in terms of the overall total size of the budget, really only benefit students in one department. And that being one of the, typically, especially among, the amount of research funding, which granted doesn't go directly to these specific things, but can go to, pay graduate and undergraduate students in one of the higher amounts in terms of overall funding that departments receive across the university. And so I don't really think it's in the best interest of this body and the best interest of the funds that we have to be allocating money specifically for one department that really can only be used by one department to benefit one department's students that, in my mind, really haven't demonstrated such a large need over any other department to be supplemented by our funding through the Educational Opportunity Fund. And so I would vote, or I would encourage you to vote to accept this amendment. And, if you want to assign the $2,000 somewhere else in a further amendment, feel free to. Otherwise, it'll go in reserves. I think that is a better use of these funds than kind of setting the precedent of being allowed to give scholarships directly to benefit one specific department, one specific department's students.
Seeing as that was debate in the positive on the amendment, is there debate in the negative on the amendment? Caucus Leader Solomon. Oh, do you have a question of privilege, Chair Lynn?
I do.
Yes.
Could someone on the committee explain reasoning as to why these things got funding in the first place?
Sure.
Make sure it isn't debate-like.
Got it. Yeah, so the reason that these two particular scholarships were funded is because the committee felt that they were indicative and compared to the other scholarships that we were funding, namely that they were going to underrepresented groups in education. So part of that is, as the physics presenter talked about, underrepresented groups in STEM. So women, minorities, and people in the LGBTQ community. That was the thought process from the committee on these scholarships. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is there debate in the negative on the amendment itself? Caucus Leader Solomon.
All right. So my position is that the previous speaker's arguments are not necessarily false, but do not align with the purpose of EOF. The previous speaker made the argument that the physics department only serves a specific number of students and a specific body of students that is too small to warrant the funding of these two things, the Physics Diversity Scholarship and the Physics Graduate Family Support. There are a variety of other departments on this list that are arguably smaller than the physics department, because there are quite a few students in the physics department, that are also being funded via this legislation. I was just looking at a couple, at the very top, it's not shown on here right now, but DMSA, for example, there's a DMSA scholarship that could go to students. And the number of students in diversity and multicultural student affairs, which is weirdly defined anyways, is arguably bigger than physics anyways, or smaller than physics, sorry. Other examples you could look at is military students, for example, specifically CATS covered student salaries, that's a small portion of individuals, and a variety of other ones on there. I didn't look at a lot of them specifically, but I think there's no possible way for us to use EOF to fund or programs that benefit all students. That is not the purpose of EOF, nor should we try to make it that way. And I think the way we are funding all these other programs is very similar to how we're going to be funding the physics department. And so just because it is an academic program as compared to a student-focused program like DMSA or Cat's Cupboard or whatever, I think it still has its merits in terms of the benefit it provides students. Additionally, it is $2,000, and I feel like we are funding other organizations that are even smaller than DMSA or even smaller than physics even more. So I feel like it's warranted to provide them an amount of money for the benefit they provide students. Thank you.
Is there further debate in the positive on this amendment? Is there further debate in the negative on this amendment? Is there any further debate at all on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, we will move into a hand vote on this amendment. If you are in favor of adopting the amendment, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. If you are not in favor of adopting the amendment, please raise your placard now. Proxies raised 2. That amendment will fail. Okay, we will now go back to considering the resolution itself. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Caucus Leader Salmon.
I move to approve the resolution. Can we do that?
Oh, I moved to approve.
I object. Okay, sorry.
Okay. There was an objection and a motion. We will just move into a hand vote on this resolution. Resolution 44. All in favor of this resolution, please raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. That resolution will pass. Okay, next up we have Resolution 212246, recommendation for the Kansas State University Campus Master Plan. Will the author please come forward? Have any changes been made?
Yes. All right, I'm going to point them all out. I'm going to try to do it quick. All right, so on line 30, 31, we mentioned interim provost Dr. Debbie Mercer, as well as Vice President of Administration and Finance Ethan Erickson. On line 38, Wildcat Wind Power is another student organization that supported this. Line 42, we added 1/25 of the KSU Manhattan student population, gives a definition of that 630 signatures. And then we struck one of the whereas clauses, put it on section 2. And that section 2 pretty much just says that we should be addressing those issues that was mentioned in that whereas clause. And yeah, I think that's all the changes we made.
Okay, you have first rights to debate.
Cool. I'm sure you guys are going to be glad that I'm going to stop talking about this. But this is obviously a recommendation for the Campus Master Plan. You guys know as well as I do. I think the most important thing about this resolution is that even if we feel that maybe this recommendation may not be taken seriously by upper administration, I do believe it'll open up a lot of avenues for what sustainability can mean on a campus-wide scale. I was talking actually to Greg Willems outside, and he even mentioned that making one of the priorities of the Campus Master Plan, environmental sustainability, will allow him to reach out to donors and reach out to alumni to get money for projects such as. You could say the same thing with just about any other project that any other administrator is trying to do in terms of sustainability. We're giving them that allowance through this. This isn't anything that, directly is saying, have to do this, have to reach carbon footprint 2035, whatever. It's simply a recommendation. And yeah.
Thank you. Seeing as that was debate in the positive, is there any debate in the negative? Is there any further debate in the positive? Is there any further debate at all? Seeing none, we will move into a hand vote on Resolution 46. All those in favor of this resolution, raise your placards now. Proxies raised 2. All opposed, same sign. Resolution will pass. Seeing as we have exhausted final action, we will move into introduction of allocations. First, we have Bill 42, allocation to the Blue Key Honor Society. They have requested $800 and are recommended $800. Next, we have Bill 43, also to the Blue Key Honor Society. They requested $1,100 and are recommended $800. Bill 44 is an allocation to the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers. They requested $1,000 and are recommended $1,000. Bill 45, allocation to IFC, requested $1,000 and are recommended $1,000. Bill 46, allocation to Kansas Music Teachers Association chapter, requested $300 and are recommended $300. Bill 47, allocation to PHC, requested $1,000 and are being recommended $1,000. Bill 48, no, those are the allocations. 42 through 47. Is there a motion to consider the allocations? Chair Long.
Question of privilege for the chair of the committee. For Bill 42, the allocation to Blue Key Honor Society for their annual conference, the application lists Blue Key's other sources of funding as being privately funded. Did the committee ask any questions about that?
Yeah, the committee was aware of.
Chair Blood?
Question of parliamentary procedure. Can we ask questions on bills before they have been considered?
I can ask Carson that question at any point in time. It's not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with yes.
Yeah, so the committee was aware of Blue Key's large endowment and their sources of private funding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Griffith?
I move to consider the allocation.
Second. It has been moved and seconded. Okay, we will move on to introduction of legislation. First up, we have Bill 232448, amendments to the KSU SGA Comprehensive Plan. Is there a motion to consider? Caucus Leader Solomon.
Move to consider whatever the number of the bill is.
Bill 48.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Would the author please come forward?
Carson wasn't scrolling fast enough. That's not my fault.
Bill 232448, amendments to Chapter 6 of the KSU SGA Comprehensive Plan. Authors Chase Glasscock and Dakota Broughton. Sponsors Strategic Oversight Committee. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association is responsible for the long-term maintenance of its goals, values, and initiatives. Whereas students face the fear of environmental degradation harming their futures. Whereas the creation of edible and native landscaping and specification of leadership in energy and environmental design certification expectations are relevant to Chapter 6 of the KSU SGA Comprehensive Plan and the commitment to environmental stewardship. And whereas the removal of the expectations for community recycling drop zones reflects the current goals of the KSU student body, be it enacted that, Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Comprehensive Plan shall be amended to include the following in Chapter 6. 1. Kansas State University should commit to ensuring leadership in energy and environmental design certification of all new campus buildings. 2. Kansas State University should develop plans for the continued creation of native and edible landscaping spaces across campus. Section 2. The Strategic Oversight Committee Comprehensive Plan shall be amended to remove the following from Chapter 6. 1. Kansas State University should establish designated drop zones for recyclables throughout the community. Section 3. This legislation shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Bellamy.
Can you speak on why you wanted to eliminate designated drop zones for recyclables?
Yeah, so effectively, the current recycling program on campus is in a state of disarray in and of itself. And so kind of the view was that the focus should be on revitalizing that first, and if the committee in the future wants to take that up, if future committees want to kind of expand that in the future, they can do so. But we want to make sure that we are focusing on things that long-term we know can happen and long-term we have a good baseline for. So that was why.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author?
I actually have a correction on this one. On line 27, certification should not be uppercase. it should be lowercase. So.
Thank you. Further questions or corrections? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we will move on to Bill 232449, amendments to the KSU SGA Constitution regarding College of Architecture, Planning, and Design elections designations. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Griffith.
I move to consider Bill 49.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
All right, Bill 232449, authors Brandon Kermer and Anna Koch, sponsors Brady Kappelman. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to review current election policy. Whereas the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design has master's degree programs for all disciplines where there is no respective undergraduate degree obtained. Whereas students apply are admitted to the graduate school during the spring semester of their third year. Whereas students are admitted to the graduate school at this point and considered graduate students in the system, but are still primarily enrolled in undergraduate courses until, on average, spring of their fourth year. Whereas by defining this designation, it clarifies the gray area in which students transition from undergraduate to graduate status based on enrolled courses. Whereas this topic was discussed with College of Architecture, Planning, and Design Dean Michael McClure, and a consensus was met so that the representation was maximized for all students in the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design and students who fall under the graduate school category. And whereas it would be the duty of the KSU SGA Elections Commissioner to oversee that this designation change is carried out. Be it enacted that Article 2, Section 202 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association Constitution shall be amended to read as follows. Adding Section A, any student of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design shall be designated as a student of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design for the sake of SGA elections from the beginning of the fall semester of their first year to the end of the fall semester of their third year, and shall be deemed a candidate for said college. A current College of Architecture, Planning, and Design student in their fall semester of third year will complete their term through the spring semester of their fourth year. Any student of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design for the sake of SGA elections shall be designated as a candidate for the graduate school from the beginning of the spring semester of their fourth year and shall be deemed a candidate for said college until graduation. Students who transfer into the post-baccalaureate master's degree program through the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design and the graduate school apply to the graduate school for their studies and shall be designated as a candidate for the graduate school until graduation. Section 2, this legislation shall take effect upon passage by the student senate and signature of the student body president.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Senator Glasscock.
On line 15 to 16, if we can include there between of and third. And on line 53, should senator be capitalized there, or they can be as senator?
Yes.
Senator Bellamy.
I believe on 1819, graduate students should be uncapitalized.
I also have a change. Specifically in lines 63 and 59, instead of graduation, I'd like to say course work completion.
Would you consider it a friendly amendment to change year to refer to academic status in the case of transfer students?
Yes.
Academic status. Chair Lynn.
Yes. Have you considered the implications on how this is going to affect our census in determining like how many students represent the College of Architecture in Senate?
That's a great question.
Chair Long.
Yeah, I guess follow up for someone that may know. This would in no way change the number of architecture majors counted, or the number of APD seats via census. Right now, our graduate level APD students counted towards APD seats. Like 50% fifth-year architecture students, are they counted in the census for the seats A and B receives?
I am unsure.
I'm pretty sure they are, but I wouldn't.
But that is something that we will look into before this hits final action.
I know the election commission.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
I have a quick question. So in this legislation, you mentioned that Dean McClure was consulted on this piece. Did you all talk to leadership in the graduate school just about what you were planning or thinking with this to get their feedback or thoughts?
I did not. No.
Follow up.
Granted.
Sorry. So was any other conversation considered regarding students in other colleges that may fall into the similar situation, such as vet med students?
So when I talked to our elections commissioner, he told me to look for in our statutes and constitution for legislation that was similar to vet med situation. Upon looking, I couldn't find anything about vet med situation.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author?
Which hopefully this would also set the precedent for vet med.
Seeing none, thank you. Okay, next up in introduction, we have Resolution 232450, recommendation for a university-wide mental health day during the fall semester. Is there a motion to consider, Chair Long?
I move to consider resolution 50.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 232450, recommendation for a university-wide mental health day during the fall semester. Authors Anna Koch, sponsors Strategic Oversight Committee, Sophia Bennix, Bobby Bruckner, TJ Dahl, Grant Ellis, Braden Haynes, Jacob Hoffman, Brandon Kermer, Hannah Moyer, Evan Porter, Nick Saya, Samantha Sushanik, Ryan Weed, Joel Griffith. Whereas the mental health and well-being of students, staff, and faculty at Kansas State University are of extreme importance for the overall success and productivity of KSU's community, whereas the demands and pressures of a rigorous academic environment, social commitments, and extracurricular activities have increased the need for proactive mental health support and self-care initiatives, whereas KSU has officially committed to adopting the Okanogan Charter on November 8th, 2023 to become a health-promoting university, whereas the Okanogan Charter calls to embed health into all aspects of campus culture across the administration, operations, and academic mandates, and to lead health promotion action and collaboration locally and globally, whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association has previously supported KSU's adoption of the Okanogan Charter, whereas in recent polls, around 85% of respondents, accounting for over 1,500 students, are in favor of a university-wide mental health day during the fall semester, whereas the College of Veterinary Medicine holds Cat's Paws Days once a month where students do not meet for classes, while staff and faculty members have limited meeting times to catch up on to focus on catching up on other work-related activities, whereas the Kansas Board of Regents requires no fewer than 146 instructional days during every academic year, whereas KSU plans for 148 instructional days every academic year, despite KSU's siblings university, the University of Kansas, only planning for the minimum 146 instructional days, whereas KU still allows inclement weather days, also known as snow days, without having to make up any instructional days, whereas inclement weather days do not typically occur in the fall semester, whereas KSU students spend 54 instructional days of the 74 total instructional days during the fall semester between the Tuesday after Labor Day to the Friday before fall break, whereas a mental health day during the fall semester would provide an opportunity for students, faculty, and staff to focus on their mental health, reduce stress, and foster a more supportive and inclusive community culture, and whereas many colleges and universities across the country have successfully implemented similar initiatives to address the mental health needs of their students, be it resolved that, Section 1, The Kansas State University Student Governing Association recommends that Kansas State University should implement an annual mental health day during the fall semester on the Friday of weeks 8, 9, or 10, ensuring it does not coincide with major academic or administrative events to minimize disrupting academic schedules. Section 2. KSU SGA recommends that KSU administration shall consider one or more of the following options in addition to the establishment of the Mental Health Day. 1. Develop and promote a comprehensive mental health awareness campaign leading up to the Mental Health Day. 2. Encourage faculty to be flexible and accommodating in their approach to assignments and assessments leading up to and immediately following the Mental Health Day. 3. Monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the Mental Health Day through regular feedback mechanisms, surveys, and assessments to make necessary improvements. 4. Use the Mental Health Day as an opportunity for the academic community to engage in open conversations about mental health, reduce stigma, and create a more supportive and inclusive campus environment. Section 3. Upon passage by the Student Senate and the signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Eldon Gideon, Dean of the College of Agriculture and Director of K-State Research, Dr. Ernie Minton, Dean of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design, Michael McClure, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Christopher Culbertson, Edgerly Family Dean of the College of Business Administration, Dr. Kevin Gwinner, Dean of the College of Education and incoming interim provost, Dr. Debbie Mercer, Dean of the Carl R. Ice College of Engineering, Dr. Matthew O'Keefe, interim Betty L. Toynton, Dean of the College of Health and Human Sciences, Dr. Brad Benke, Dean of the Staley School of Leadership Studies, Dr. Mary H. Toller, Hode's Family Dean of the College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Bonnie Rush, Vice Provost for the Graduate Education and Dean of the Graduate School, Dr. Claudia Perso, Faculty Senate President, Dr. Dawn Von Bergen, Academic Affairs Committee Co-Chairs, Dr. Annie Bennett and Dr. Brandon Quiller, Morrison Family Associate Vice President for the Student Wellbeing, Kathleen Hatch, Director of the Morrison Family Center for Student Wellbeing, Chris Bowman, Executive Director of the Student Health and Wellbeing Services, Wendy Nicholson, Senior Associate Dean and Director of Student Life, Andy Thompson, Assistant Vice President, Student Belonging and Inclusion, Dr. Myrta Chavez, Vice President of Academic Success and Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, Senior Vice President for Executive Affairs, University Engagement and Partnerships, and Chief of Staff, Dr. Marshall Stewart, Provost and Executive Vice President, Dr. Charles Tabor, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Line 85, the Staley School of Leadership Studies has been updated to Staley School of Leadership. Line 92, can we update Senior Associate Dean and Director for Student Life? Can we update Student Life to Student Support and Accountability? Unless
His
it's not.
title is actually Director for Student Life. The office is different.
Okay.
But his title
is the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator Oury.
So, where are we getting this day from for the mental health?
So I was actually talking with Kathleen Hatch and then Dr. Tabor and Dr. Mercer these past few weeks. So we do have a little bit of buff room because we do have those 2 extra days than the minimum that KBOR requires. So we would be using one of those days. And so we would still be at 147 days compared to 146. So it'd be just using one of those days, and we would still have an extra buffer if like a snow day or something were to happen.
Is it currently being sent to the calendar committee?
No.
Would you consider it a friendly amendment to add those to the? Yes. Got that, Brady? Caucus Leader Kidd.
I have a question, but it's actually for Vice President Binkley. So I went to Senate, right? And then you talked about, I think what you talked about was more about the summer, but can you discuss a little bit more about the importance of like contact days or whatever? Just even though this hasn't been brought to your committee yet, but has that been discussed at all about like any buffer day for any miscellaneous reason other than like a weather-related day?
Yeah, they've talked about that we do have those extra buffers buffer days, but they've also mentioned that the only way that they see us adding mental health days or anything of that kind, because it has been brought up in the past, is if we don't get the first 2 days of the week of Thanksgiving off, so that Monday and Tuesday. So not to say, I mean, yeah, that's all that's been discussed, yes.
Thank you.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move on to introduction of Resolution 23-2451, recommendation regarding maintenance and delivery vehicles. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Glasscock.
I would consider resolution 51.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 23-2451, authors Brandon Kermer, sponsors Anna Koch and Nick Saya. Whereas Kansas State University, KSU, prides itself on the walkability of its campus, whereas during prospective student campus visits, it is mentioned how someone can walk from one side of campus to the other within 10 minutes. Whereas in 2015, Mid-Campus Drive, stretching from Bluemont Hall to the Staley School of Leadership Studies, was closed off to vehicle traffic, converted into a major pedestrian thoroughfare due to the danger the street posed to students walking and biking to class. Whereas an influx of maintenance and delivery vehicles such as vans, oversized pickups, box trucks, and semi-trucks can be seen driving down Mid-Campus Drive and MLK Junior Drive north of Ahern Fieldhouse on a daily basis during peak campus hours. Whereas peak campus hours are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Whereas an influx of maintenance vehicles utilizing narrower campus sidewalks can be seen where students are forced to step off the sidewalk completely to allow such vehicles to pass. Whereas students distracted due to earbuds and headphones are put at a greater safety risk and may not hear an oncoming vehicle. Whereas students should not have to dodge vehicles on campus while walking and biking to class. Whereas a sidewalk is not a parking lot and it would be deemed unacceptable anywhere else to utilize the sidewalk for such. And whereas the health and safety of all students at KSU should be prioritized, especially while on campus. Be it resolved, Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, recommends that all maintenance and delivery vehicular activity be reassessed to prioritize activity outside of peak campus hours or to use designated campus streets. Section 2, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, recommends that facilities in housing and dining contact all delivery services to discuss alternatives from using designated sidewalks. Section 3, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Associate Vice President of Facilities, Casey Lauer, Assistant Vice President of Operations and Infrastructure, Chris Salmon, Director of Business Operations, Gary Wishar, Director of Space Management, Heather Mills, Director of Power Plant Utilities, Tim Brunner, Director of Facility Services, Linda Craghead, Superintendent of Landscape Services, Shad Huffnagel, Executive Assistant for the Office of the Assistant Vice President, Lori Hayden, Associate Vice President for Student Life and Director of Housing and Dining Services, Dr. Derek Jackson, Associate Director for Facilities and Management, Skylar Harper, Assistant Vice President of Planning and Design and Construction, Lisa Johnson, Vice President of Academic Success and Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President, Dr. Richard H. Lynn.
Are there questions or corrections for the author? We caught leadership. Cox Leader Kit.
Line 55, question for Dr. Jackson. Is your title still that, or aren't you like AVP of Community Building or whatever? So what is it though, the title?
Associate Vice President of Community.
Oh, okay. Great, thanks. So can we update that?
Yeah, I just deleted off of a resolution from last week.
Thanks.
Chair Blood.
Point of information, the university has decided to put different titles on people's names on different parts of the website that are different. So, I've now found, I think, the most up-to-date version. Google does not find the most up-to-date version, FYI.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, thank you. Moving on to Resolution 23-2452, recommendation to Kansas State University regarding edible landscaping. Is there a motion to consider? Senator Dennis.
I motion to consider Resolution 52.
Second.
Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 23-2452, recommendation to Kansas State University regarding edible landscaping. Authors Chase Glasscock, sponsors Natalie McPherson. Whereas the Kansas State University 2030 strategic plan outlines both global food security and sustainability as core areas of opportunity for KSU planning, whereas edible landscaping increases food security, provides educational opportunities in food production and social justice initiatives, reduces waste through decreased use of prepackaged foods, and promotes a more sustainable environment, whereas peer institutions such as the University of California, Davis, University of Kansas, University of Utah, and University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh have successfully implemented edible landscaping projects on campus grounds, whereas Fort Hays State University has shown the promise of creating edible landscaping to provide fresh produce through their campus Tiger Pantry, whereas concerns over pest control and pollution can be mitigated through a variety of management practices, including use of metal baffles, application of natural repellents, proper pruning of branches, and the clearing of fallen produce, whereas the long-term sustainability of the project would be ensured through the creation of a student group geared towards the creation and maintenance of edible landscaping across campus, and whereas an abundance of agricultural knowledge within the KSU campus allows for the development of a successful edible landscaping initiative. Be it resolved that, Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association recommends the implementation of edible landscaping across the KSU campus. Section 2, KSU SGA believes that KSU should involve students in the planning and development of edible landscaping spaces. Section 3, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Facilities Project Manager Brett Robinson, Assistant Vice President of Planning, Design, and Construction Lisa Johnson, Director of Space Management Heather Mills, Landscape Services Superintendent Shad Huffnagel, Interim Head of Social Transformation Studies Christy Lanius, Physical Plant Supervisor for Grounds, Housing, and Dining Thomas Fish, State Lee School of Leadership Dean Dr. Mary H. Toller, College of Arts and Sciences Dean Dr. Christopher Culbertson, Director of Facility Services Linda Crackhead, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students Dr. Thomas Lane, and University President Dr. Richard H. Linton.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Caucus Leader Kermer.
Can you just give an example of what like edible landscaping would be?
Yeah, so it can be quite a few things. I will give the example that is in here that Fort Hays State University has. They have their Tiger Pantry, and then there's an area right out back that they use for a number of like bushes and trees and things like that, where they take the produce from that, they harvest the produce from that, and then kind of process that and use that in their rotation of the food that they give out. There are a couple of other things that other universities do. In some cases, it's a community garden where students and faculty can apply to have like different like foodscape opportunities and plant things on their own. And in some cases, in thoroughfares, there's like fruit trees that are planted or like bushes that are kind of planted along main thoroughfares or in side areas that can be accessed. But edible landscaping is a kind of a broad term that can be directed towards each university's need.
Follow.
Granted.
Where do you see an example of edible landscaping that can take place on our campus?
Yeah, so Natalie McPherson is the person who's kind of like really spearheading this, and she's talked with facilities and like departments and faculty on this. There's plans for a trail like walkway through campus. This could be an opportunity where fruit trees could be planted alongside that. She's been talking with Cats Covered about the possibility of doing something similar to the Tiger Pantry because they have a space out back that could be useful for edible landscaping. Those are the two like kind of more like mature kind of like points that are being like pushed towards. But it kind of just depends on what faculty and facilities are kind of wanting to work with.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
So I know nothing about edible landscaping, so I appreciate this legislation. Have there been any conversations with our faculty over in the Food, Nutrition, Dietetics, and Health Department regarding edible landscaping and just its practices? Is it safe or anything like that?
There is not, no. There's been talk with horticulture faculty and some ag faculty, but not with that kind of department specifically.
Thank you.
I have a question. Have you considered who would be in charge of maintaining?
Yes. So the current kind of long-term idea of this particular initiative is making a student group whose main or sole focus is to kind of upkeep this. The last thing that we want is for facilities to kind of uptake this and be strained further. The University of Kansas has a really good kind of instance of this. They have a community garden and some edible landscaping initiatives that are all student led with faculty support, and there have been a number of faculty that have expressed interest in taking that role of guiding this long term. So,
Caucus Leader Salmon.
Would that group have like any sort of funding or any way to kind of like enforce things?
yeah, so because like the university doesn't really have any fund that is specifically for like these types of green initiatives. The University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh has a green fund that is specifically for student-led initiatives. We don't have anything like that. So it would be primarily funded in the short term by grants, and I'm kind of working on securing SGA funding for some of that. And then in the long term, probably fundraising and possible like departmental work of seeing if there are departments or colleges who want to kind of like help fund that or help sponsor that. Yeah.
Good follow-up. I guess
Granted.
SCTE like tech funding.
I've been in talks with Sam. Yes.
Are there further questions or corrections for the author? Seeing none, thank you. Up next, we have introduction of Resolution 232453, recommendation to student programs and involvement regarding the Activities Carnival. Is there a motion to consider? Caucus Leader Compton.
I move to consider Resolution 53.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Will the author please come forward?
Resolution 232453, recommendation to student programs and involvement regarding activities carnivals. Authors Julian Griffiths, sponsors Tommy Compton. Whereas twice per year, student programs and involvement hosts an activities carnival within the student union. Whereas these activities carnivals are open to all registered student organizations, both sponsored and affiliated. Whereas fraternities and sororities are included in that list. Whereas the number of students that can join fraternities and sororities is finite. Whereas the number of students that can join clubs and other organizations is theoretically unlimited. Whereas the number of students interested in joining fraternities and sororities is also finite, while the number of students interested in joining clubs is not. Whereas the sheer number of fraternities and sororities at activities carnivals prevents clubs and organizations from connecting with potential members. And whereas separating clubs and organizations from fraternities and sororities will allow for greater number of involvements in activities on campus. Be resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU-SGA, requests that student programs and involvement, SPI, create separate activities carnivals for clubs and organizations and for fraternities and sororities, with said carnivals taking place on different days. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Director of Student Programs and Involvement, Sarah Hyman, SPI Program Coordinator, Ashley Douglas, SPI Accountant, Amy Lee, SPI Graduate Assistants Brooke Dennis, Anna Smith, and Allison Dunn, Executive Director of the Kansas State University Student Union, Corey Williamson, Associate Director/Director of Building Administrations of the Kansas State University Student Union, Craig Johnson, Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life, Dee Hawks, all current members of the Union Governing Board, and Vice President of Academic Success and Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane.
Are there any questions or corrections for the author? Coordinator Navarro.
Hey, Jolly. I was wondering, you mentioned above that the amount of people going into fraternities and sororities are finite. Is there any specific thing that you're referring to when you're regarding that? Are you talking about monetary, or are you talking about diversity?
When I mean finite, I mean that there is literally a finite amount of people that can join fraternities and sororities, in that not everyone who comes to K-State is going to be interested in joining the Greek life, and those who are limited because they can't join more than one. So the amount is limited, whereas clubs and organizations are not mutually exclusive the way that frats and sororities are.
Hold on, Chair Lynn.
No, give me a second.
Okay, follow-up granted.
Yeah, and so when you refer to that, not good, never mind. But for fraternities and sororities, is that also including multicultural fraternities and sororities as well?
Could you expand on what you mean by that?
Yeah, so like there's like multicultural fraternities and sororities, like with Hispanic students, with Black students. When you're referring to fraternities and sororities, are you referring to those fraternities and sororities as well, or are you considering them under organization?
Do you mean like,
when you refer to fraternities and sororities, right, is that referring to all fraternities and sororities in Greek life, including multicultural fraternities and sororities?
I mean like the ones where you don't live on campus, but you live instead with that fraternity or sorority?
I think the author is referring to Panhellenic.
Okay.
If that's what it is, then that's what it is.
Panhellenic is what you think of when you think of like traditional fraternities and sororities. They're also like music and academic and multicultural fraternities and sororities that are not included within Panhellenic.
Then that would more refer to the organizations.
I would ask for you to clarify that in the bill, but
that is
we can
totally
handle that when it is referred to a committee. Caucus Leader Kermer.
Are you aware of the current requirement that some fraternities and sororities have that maybe they're like pledges or have to go to the activities carnival just to get a piece of paper signed off?
I'm not saying that we should remove them from activities carnivals. I'm saying that the suggestion should be that they have a separate activities carnival exclusively for them. So like, because the main problem is that I'm the president of a student organization, and so I've been to the activity carnival both as a student and as the president of an organization, and I've seen that there are just so many that they are basically hogging tables from other clubs that want to come, and so by having a separate day for them, that means that people who are really interested in the fraternities and sororities can go to a special frat day to learn all about them, whereas those who aren't interested still can come to the activities fairs and see all the clubs.
I'm not going to do follow-ups while we have this many questions. Chair Lynn.
As there are 38 total fraternities and sororities in PHC and IFC combined, can you explain why you think that they take up a disproportionate amount of space at the activities carnival as opposed to the other 350 student organizations that could potentially be there?
This is just coming from my personal experience of seeing them, but it's like they were everywhere. Like, it really was, at least in what I've seen, is that they took up a lot of space, but then also, like I said, that a special frat day for a frat sorority day for, I guess, Panhellenic fraternities. Entities, I'm sure, would also be something that the Panhellenic Council, that people like that would be able to get behind. And so that's more of the intention. If that was not very clear in the bill, I would be totally open to rewording that.
Senator Dennis.
Have you spoken with anybody at student programs and involvement or fraternity and sorority life about this bill? Ashley, Sarah, Dee, have you spoken to any of them about that?
No.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
So lines 45 and 46. So this is an example of legislation that has Dr. Blaine's updated title, but the last piece of legislation.
We'll get that.
So, okay, perfect.
Yep, we got that fixed.
Sorry. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Chief of Staff Brown.
I was just wondering, in what manner, and maybe my opinion is one of only my own, but in what manner is this not just kind kind of discriminatory based on the organizations that you're joining. I mean, you're just telling an entire group of students, like almost a fifth of your population of students, that they're not allowed to come and participate, even though they're also affiliated registered student organizations of the university.
Let's try to keep questions informative rather than debate-like.
Line 34, create separate activity carnivals for clubs and organizations and for fraternities and sororities. I'm not saying that they should not be allowed to have an activity carnival. I'm saying that they should be able to have a separate one, as I am pretty sure it would be able to drive up engagement for all people involved.
Caucus Leader Solomon.
How would this interface with like the affiliated versus sponsored student organization structure? I know it's broad, but
If I remember correctly, most of the fraternities are classified as, affiliated. So I don't think it would affect it that much, as both sponsored and affiliated organizations are able to get tables at the activities fairs. This is specifically about the fraternities and sororities and the pretty much everything else, the clubs, organizations having separate activity days.
Chair Lynn.
This actually might be a question of privilege. Is there a finite number of tables that are allowed to be at the activities fair? And do we turn people away?
We have a limit of 250.
Tabling?
Because that's how many we can fit in the union.
Do we hit that limit? Okay.
Senator Hartzell.
Are each of the fraternities and sororities represented at the activities fair, or is it PHC and FSL? Like, as a table?
Oh, no, it is that the individual fraternities and sororities have tables.
Senator O'Malley.
Could you speak a bit more to in what ways, are they taking too many tables or too many students talking to create like tables? Can you expand on that a bit more?
Like Senator Dennis said, there is a limited number of tables. And so by having a separate day, or even just like, hey, ballroom is all frats, could open up a significant amount of room for more organizations, because as the president of organization, the email that was sent out like, hey, act fast, we only have a limited number of tables. And so having a separate day for the fraternities and sororities would allow for more tables to be taken up for more clubs that can drive up more engagement on campus.
Caucus Leader Kidd.
This is more of a question of privilege, or maybe it's not. I don't know. The current process for what is the current process for a student org to register and then actually create a table at the activities carnival? Can someone walk us through that?
So essentially, we have kind of a new system. It's very similar. We just need now an advisor for everybody. And once you are recognized as a student organization, the way we did it this past year, just because we did have that policy change go through on August 1st, was if you were recognized the previous school year, then you were still recognized up until October 1st. And so whoever was recognized could apply for a table. Ashley had to approve. So we're going back to, you have to register over the summer, because we will most likely open registration back up in the spring, or recognition. That's the new term for it. We will open up recognition back up in the spring, probably in April. And so if you're recognized by the time school starts, you can apply for a table for activities carnival, and then Ashley will process those.
Senator O'Malley.
Okay, since we have a finite number of tables, would you be open to the possibility of allotting those tables first to organizations that bring in the most students and seem to be the most popular amongst the majority of the student body?
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know, that would be, this is just a recommendation, and so if that's what SPI decides to go with, then that's what they decide to go with, but that is not explicitly in what is discussion about the resolution.
Leader Wagner.
Have you thought about maybe finding a different location that could hold more people for organizations and fraternities so that both could be involved?
I am not the one who plans the activities carnivals. That is student programs and involvement, and they're hosted here in the Union.
Caucus Leader Kit.
And this relates to my last question, but so the process for being able to go was answered, but the last time that it happened, it was first come, first served for tables. So even if fraternities and sororities could not attend, that's still more groups that could still get there before anyone else and get a table, to which then that could still affect maybe your group or another group. So again, how does this legislation specifically help with that issue, if it is the same process for the coming spring semester?
In an ideal world, all of the Panhellenic frats and sororities, assuming that's the correct term, would have their own day, and so they would essentially be pulled out of the potential pool. And if the previous number of 38 is correct, that is an additional 38 clubs and organizations that can do these activities carnivals, which is another 38 organizations that can get the amount of recognition that they need.
Time for questionings has expired.
Okay, thank you for your time. Okay, seeing as that is the end of introduction of legislation, we will move into second open period. Are there any speakers for second open period? Seeing none, we will move on to Senate shoutouts.
Right. Shout out to Caucus Leader Navarro. Shout out to Kate saying that she is the Senate. Shout out to Brandon. I love you and hope this embarrassed you. It's pretty base to play Minecraft in Senate. Shout out to Questions of Privilege for keeping us informed and busy. Shout out to the Grammar Police. Shout out to the Silence for the Cabinet appointments. Shout out to the business building and all the smells. Jack for rebounds. Heck yeah, brother. Shout out to the Marcus Kidd Award. Shout out to Carson. You make an excellent Sam Sushanik. Shout out to the multiple different versions and titles that Associate Vice Presidents of Kansas State have across k-state.edu. Shout out to the Staley School of Leadership for dropping the word studies. Shout out to Confusion. Shout out to Special Frat Days. Party on, dude. Shout out to the Architecture Caucus show today. And shout out to Carson.
Okay, moving on to reference of legislation. Bills 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47 will go to the Allocations Committee. Bill 48 will go to the Oversight Committee. 49 will go to Senate Executive Committee. Resolution 50, 51, and 52 will go to the Oversight Committee, and 53 will also go to the Senate Executive Committee. Senator Griffith.
I move to refer Bill 29 to the Strategic Oversight Committee.
Bill 49?
That's what I meant.
Object.
To the Oversight Committee?
Operations.
Object.
Okay, it has been moved, not seconded.
Second.
Seconded and objected to send that bill to the Oversight Committee instead, or Operations Committee instead. The reason that I am sending it to the Senate Executive Committee is because the Elections Commissioner is a member of the Senate Executive Committee, and the Elections Commissioner is like this has to do with elections. But Senator Griffith, if you want to state why you would like it sent to the Oversight Committee. Operations Committee.
One of those days, huh? I would like to read directly from our bylaws, Article 4, Section 11, Subsection 8. Senate Operations Standing Committee shall have the responsibilities of overseeing KSU SGA elections as prescribed in Article 1. This is a bill about elections. The overseeing SGA elections is explicitly part of the Senate Operations Standing Committee's goal. And such, I think that a bill about elections should be sent to operations.
Okay. We will move into a hand vote on whether or not to send this to the Operations Committee.
Could you call for more debate?
Oh, yes. Is there further debate? Is there debate in the negative on the motion? Caucus Leader Kermer.
So the reason I don't want this going to the Operations Committee is because it's kind of a complex situation. Almost to the point where I didn't fully understand it at first. And I've been talking with members on the Senate Executive Committee for the most part of the semester, and they are pretty aware of this situation with the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design. I also would like, the Elections Commissioner sits on Senate Executive along with the Senate Operations Chair, so they would still have a say in the situation, but most of the people on Senate Exec, including the student body president, are aware of the situation.
Seeing as that was debate in the negative on the motion to refer to the Senate Operations Committee, is there further debate in the positive? Is there further debate in the negative? And is there any further debate at all? Seeing none, we'll move into a hand vote on the motion to refer to the Senate Operations Committee. All those in favor of sending this to the Senate Operations Committee, please raise your placard now. All opposed, same sign. That motion will fail, and it will only be referred to the Senate Executive Committee. Okay, we will now move into second roll call.
All right, Atchison, Bellamy, Biggs, Blood, Broughton,
Here.
Bruckner,
Here.
Koch,
Here.
Compton,
Here.
Cuesta,
Here.
Cup,
Here.
Dennis,
Here.
Dunce, Fogel, Glasscock,
Here.
Griffith,
Here.
Haynes,
Here.
Hartzell,
Here.
Heatherman, Heseltine,
Here.
Hulse, Jacobson, Kirchen,
Here.
Kidd,
Here.
Kermer,
Here.
Kinsey,
Here.
Lilly,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Lynn,
Here.
Melcher,
Here.
Moore, O'Malley,
Here.
Oury,
Here.
Porter,
Here.
Rivard, Rodriguez Melendez, Salmon,
Here.
Streetman,
Here.
Strunk,
Here.
West, Winger,
Here.
Wolf, and Zacko. All right, thanks everyone.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Are there, Chair Lynn? Yeah, you do have to say until when.
I move to adjourn until 2 weeks from now, same time, same place.
Are there any objections? See ya, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Done for the term.
Gone.
No more Senate ever.
Someone said.